Well, Polish language is treated as one of the most difficult in Europe, but there are some languages like Hungarian and Finnish, so it's okay. My name is Budajezak, and my university name is Adam Mickiewicz. It was a famous romantic poet. Well, I'm not going to just introduce some additional legal cases here. I would try to place some special accents within the matters we are taking up here. But let me start with a paraphrase. All of you know, I suppose, the ugly aphorism assigned to American general of the Civil War, Philip H. Sheridan. I'm quoting, "The only good Indian is, yes, a dead Indian," with my personal apologies to Native Americans. As for the condition of the present home education in the world, that aphorism might sound like that, I think. The only good parent is still a dead parent, or at least a parent passive in all educational issues concerning his or her child. So is, I'm afraid, a deep conviction of most school officials and professional teachers, and unfortunately, of mighty politicians. Is such an attitude of school workers of real importance for the legislation of home education? Well, yes, indeed. Statistically, teachers and school clerks form the biggest group of professionals and voters either in any country. And politicians of different levels of power are often recruited from among those same teachers. For example, 13% of all Polish parliament members, the biggest group by job, are just teachers. Furthermore, it's obvious that educational laws and their changes in every single state are unique and closely intertwined with local politics, economy, and culture, and with personalities of people active in the public sphere. These laws are highly unstable. We can see that. One small shift in a personal attitude of a political decision maker brings about big social changes. Physicists call it the butterfly effect, as you remember. Well, here you are a Polish example. Home education has been legal in Poland since 1991, being introduced just after the communism collapse, with some inflows and outflows as it concerns the severity of laws towards it. In general, we've got regulations pretty friendly to home educators, and because of that, people from other countries like Germany or even Sweden, Jonas, settle down here in Poland as they are not allowed to do it at their homelands. In 2015, a conservative party, Law and Justice, took power in Poland. It might seem hopeful because, as a rule, conservatives and liberals respect parental freedoms in the point, in opposition to social democrats. But in 2016, the parliament, dominated by the ruling party, approved a new educational act much worse than the previous one, of liberals. Why so? Well, in 2015, at the very beginning of her directing of Ministry of National Education in Poland, a huge and the first criticism ever fell on she minister, a criticism from the part of Polish home educators and media. She then signed an act cutting a big percentage of the public money transferred to the schools that control and organize yearly exams for homeschoolers. First scared, soon she minister recovered and started her attacks and doing her restrictive politics against home education, and not without fault from us, from the insiders. Next, she proposed new obstructive educational laws. To a pity, almost all parliamentarians from her party voted for introducing the laws. That was a trivial, we must admit, but still decisive reason for serious changes. Fortunately, the lady went to the European Parliament a year ago, and her colleagues, along with our president and prime minister, have recently, it was during our presidential election campaign this year and coronavirus period, they have promised to change the legal rules and even introduced one for the good of homeschooling families and generally parental rights. And it did not happen without our home education promoters' involvement, of course. So there is a light in the tunnel, I think. It is our lawyers, after the formula and the example to follow of HSLDA in using weak and strong points of countries' legal rules, scholars in telling the objective truths, and other social activists, constant permanent job or even mission to contact and persuade to home education, ombudsman, reasonable parliamentary parties members, ministers and president, but with taking into consideration their susceptibility, taking that personal hypersensitivity into account in our statements for the media is then important too. That's the way for us, I think. And I'm afraid there is no other, because as Polish folk wisdom says, look at that, łaska pańska na pstrym koniu jeździ, the master's goodwill rides on a motley horse, or in the English version, being in your master's good graces, that doesn't last forever. Thank you very much for your attention to my words.